Thank you for coming.
Gracias por venir.
My name is Philip Gonzalez.
Su nombre es Felipe González.
This is Denise Mino.
Soy Denise Miño Matayoshi.
We are the co-chairs for the Latino Leadership Network.
Nosotros somos los co-chairs del Latino Leadership Network.
First of all, I would like to acknowledge our executive sponsorship and our executive staff that we have here. Can all the executives please stand?
That would include Brad Owen, Lieutenant Governor, Chris Liu, DES, Alfie Alvarado. Some of our objectives for today's event would be for you to gain a better understanding of the role of Latinos in Washington State, have met at least 3 new people to add to your personal network, and to feel supported knowing that you now belong to a network for Latino state employees. And Philip will now introduce our first speaker.
I'd like to tell you a little bit about him. Uriel Iñiguez is the Executive Director of the Commission on Hispanic Affairs. Uriel was first appointed by Governor Christian Greger as Executive Director of the Commission on Hispanic Affairs in June 2005, and reappointed by Governor Inslee in January 2014. Prior to his appointment as Executive Director, he worked for the Department of Corrections. Uriel currently serves on a variety of committees, including Eastern Washington University Board of Trustees. At this time, let's welcome Uriel Iñiguez.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Is it afternoon? Yeah, it is. So thank you for being here with us today. I think this is a special occasion for all of us. And also in commemorating this event is that we are also, this is a participatory speech. I'm going to be asking you questions. And I think Alfie offered that whoever gets the questions more right, she's going to buy, at the next event, she'll buy lunch. Right, Alfie?
Alfie.
So, what is the other occasion that we're here for? We're here because the Latino Network is celebrating the second meeting of this network. What is the other occasion that's going on right now for Latinos?
Heritage Month.
Hispanic Heritage Month. Thank you very much. So, and part of that, what I'm going to talk to you about is the rich history of Latinos here in the state of Washington. And many of you probably, be the first time you hear about this. And there will be another quiz later on at the next meeting about this history. So part of it, before we get started, this network, and as you know, all events need people to volunteer, and especially this event. I'd like to thank Denise Miño. Gracias. Philip Gonzalez. Alfie Alvarado. Emilio Vela. Jesus Sanchez. And Harvey Perez. All these people are trying to put all this group together in these events for us. So thank you very much for your leadership. So part of what we're going to celebrate today is to recognize Latino and Latinas for helping to shape our national character and strengthen our communities. The warmth, vitality of our culture are great gifts to America and are part of the unique fabric of our country and our state. Hispanic Heritage Month. When does it begin? Every day.
Every day.
I like that answer. September 15th, the anniversary of 5 independent Latin American countries of their independence. Which are those 5?
Mexico,
Okay.
Colombia,
Okay. Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, Mexico, and for one of my commissioners who always, every time the governor signs proclamation, says, "Why did you forget Chile?" So Chile also. The history and movement of Latinos into the Pacific Northwest, and specifically Washington, is long and varied. Some of the information, like I mentioned before, this is probably the first time you ever hear this. But you will find it in Latino assessments. So please, before you leave, take one of our assessments. Historians point out to Spanish captain Juan Perez's voyage of 1774 as the first exploration of the Pacific Northwest. And shortly after, in the 1790s, 2 settlements were established, Anilla Bay and Vancouver Island. They were the first non-native settlements in this area. In 1819, the United States and Spain signed the Adams-Onis Treaty, in which Spain gave us its claim to the Pacific Northwest and Florida. Yes, this is how long Latinos have been in the Pacific Northwest. And it seems every census we get rediscovered. Or every election, right? The second half of the 19th century marks important developments in Washington. The era represents the expansion of European American settlements and eventually statehood for Washington. This period also represents a continued Latino presence and experience in the region due to the expansion of cattle, trade, transportation, mining, and other economic activities associated with settlements and the formation of the Northwest. Before statehood, Latinos contributed to the early economic development of the region. After 1819, 2 economies developed in the Washington Territory: fur trading and mining. Latinos created the backbone of the transportation system for the mining economy in the late 18th century. The Mexican mule pack system was in a regular use in the mining economy during this period of time. Now, I don't remember ever reading that when I had history in high school, but yes, we were part of the exploration of the Pacific Northwest. The discovery of gold in British Columbia and Idaho during the 1850s prompted many miners to go through the future Washington state and stop there for to purchase provisions. Walla Walla became the center of mining activity. And by 1870, a large Mexican population, which developed the region's first dependable means of commercial transportation, also started their businesses there in Walla Walla. However, the formation of significant and permanent Latino communities did not emerge in Washington until the 20th century. The emergence of Latino communities in Washington was a result of several factors: the development of Mexico's northern region and the American Southwest in the early 20th century, which pushed thousands of Mexicans toward the north and eventually into the United States. Between 1910 and 1920, 500 Mexicans have fled to the U.S. The expansion of the U.S. agricultural industry and the Mexican Revolution resulted in a large increase in the Mexican population along the U.S.-Mexican border. The oversupply of labor created the movement of large number of Mexicans to regions outside of the Southwest into places like the Northwest, which created the first Latino migratory routes into Washington. In the next decade, labor recruitment played a crucial role in bringing Mexicans into Washington to work in the salmon canneries in Seattle and in the ag industry. As agricultural production exploded in Washington, so did the presence of Latinos. Other industries, such as timber, railroad, construction companies, recruited many Latinos in the 1920s also. But the majority of the Latino population in Washington can be traced its roots to the World War II era. First, Latinos became more diverse. More Latinos from Latin America also started coming to the U.S. And secondly, Latinos became more urbanized. Although many Latinos continue to gravitate to rural communities for agricultural work, thousands more travel to urban centers such as Seattle, Spokane, Yakima, and the I-5 corridor. Now, until I read this, I didn't know actually Yakima was urban, right? So. And part of it also working in the ag, but also in other areas. Thus, the post-World War II era illustrates the urbanization of Latinos and their entrepreneurial spirit in Washington. In fact, Latino-owned businesses emerged in Seattle and Spokane as early as 1954 and 1960. In the urban areas, the population of Latinos became more diverse, but remained still heavily Mexican. Today, Hispanics are the fastest growing population among all ethnic groups in the U.S. and the United States, and also here in Washington. Currently, the U.S. Census estimates there are over 850,000 Hispanics in the state. Many people think we are mostly located in the east side of the mountains, but in reality, we are equally divided in the east and in the west. Most of the Latino population resides in 5 counties. This is another quiz. Which of those 5 counties?
Yakima, King, Pierce,
Oh, that's
Benton,
pretty good.
and Grant.
So, Yakima's a gimme. Everybody says Yakima. Okay? King, Yakima, Pierce, Snohomish, and Franklin. And there are 2 counties where Latinos are the majority. Anybody tell me those? They're east of Washington. Okay, see, everybody says Yakima. Okay. No, Franklin and Adams. We Latinos are the majority in those 2 counties. And we're getting close to being the majority in 2 other counties. Grant County, I was going to say Thurston, but we're only like 7%. Grant County and Yakima. So by the next 5 years, Latinos will be the majority in those other counties. So when I go and talk to the Midwest and up east, people always say, well, they're really Latinos over in Washington State? I say, yeah, we actually have 2 counties where the majority. And so we are part of the growing of Latinos throughout the United States. And part of it that every industry has felt the impact of the Latino growth, including state government. Currently, Latinos make up 5.3% of the employees, and 72% of those are administrators and executives. We are expected to grow 150% in the next 25 years. This increase will be driven primarily by increases in the 2nd generation. This native-born, English-speaking U.S. Latinos and Latinas will have a very different impact on our state than our immigrant parents had. My fellow Latinos and Latinas, we have enriched our nation through contributions in many professions and fields, including education, law, government, business, science, sports, and the arts, since the foundation of this country. We all know the popular singers and athletes who have captivated us with their athletic abilities and musical talents. But do you know we also have Latinos and Latinas who have won the Nobel Prize? Luis Alvarez, Nobel Prize physicist. Mario Molina, Nobel Prize chemist. And Severo Ochoa, Nobel Prize biochemist. And how about Elena Ochoa in 1993 became the first Hispanic woman in space? Romana Acosta Buñuelos became the first Latina treasurer in the United States when she became from 1971 to 1974. She is a shining example of someone overcoming all the odds to serve this nation at one of its highest posts. Currently, there are 2 Latino governors. Who are they? Come on, this is who are the 2 Latino governors? Susana Martinez, New Mexico. See, that's like saying Yakima. Come on. And Brian Sandoval from Nevada. And we have 2 Latinos running for president. Now, this is really amazing. Who are they? And Ted Cruz, right? Some of us really have different opinions about those 2, but we'll go on. And just recently, all you have heard about the U.S. Supreme Court Justice Sonia Maria Sotomayor. And of course, we have our own Supreme Court Justice, Stephen Gonzalez. Did Stephen make it today? All right, apparently not. Okay, they're calling that a court here or something. All right. America might have never felt this mighty corporate muscle had it not been for the mixed talents from around the globe. Immigrants who blended ambition with dreams and determination to work hard, study hard, and make their own mark in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, not only have we enriched our nation through contributions in many professions and fields, but we have defended this country even before its foundation. Do you know that Jorge Farragut was a Latino? You guys know that? a seaman born in Spanish island of Minorca, joined the South Carolina Navy and fought at the Battle of Savannah and at the Second Defense of Charleston. Farragut is thought to be one of the first Latino Revolutionary War heroes. Since then, Latinos and Latinas have served bravely in the United States Armed Forces, like our own Alfie Alvarado and Phil Gonzalez, and my son, who was actually commissioned as second lieutenant a couple months ago. We have earned more than 61 medals of honor and numerous distinguished military decorations for their leadership, courage, and patriotism. Today, more than 157,000 Latinos and Latinas serve in the armed forces, the National Guard, and reserves. The federal government estimates that there are about 1 million living Latino veterans, including World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Persian Gulf, and now the Iraq and Afghanistan wars. In World War II, Mexican Americans were the most represented of any ethnic group in combat divisions. In addition to these, 12 Latinos won the Medal of Honor in World War II. This was more than any other ethnic group. During Hispanic Heritage Month, we also recognized people like Richard Cavazos, who in 1982 made military history by being appointed the Army's first Hispanic four-star general. We tend to forget that without the ultimate sacrifice of these heroes, this country would never be what it is today. But our work is not done. Today, more than ever, our communities are changing. We need to become more involved as Latinos. This is specifically true in government. We have over 300 commissions and boards where we need your expertise and experience. We need you to be part of shaping policy in our state so it is more reflective of the needs of our communities. Latinos and Latinas have built the foundation of this country. We have been essential to the development of the most powerful nation the world has ever seen. That was not a coincidence. That was our passion and strength as Latinos. And based on this rich history and the ever-growing Latino community, we know that the success of Washington will depend on the success of Latinos. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. And let's continue working together as a community because, like I said, the success of Latinos will depend on the success of Washington State. Thank you.
Right now, I'd like to bring up our next guest, an honorary guest. He was born and raised in Tacoma. Brad Owen was elected Washington's 15th Lieutenant Governor in 1996 and re-elected in 2000, 2004, 2008, and 2012. He has more than 38 years in public office, includes service as a Finance Commissioner for the City of Shelton, as a member of the House of Representatives and of the State Senate. Over this time, Lieutenant Governor Owen has focused on providing leadership in public health and safety, with an emphasis on substance abuse and prevention. In addition to his day-to-day duties as Lieutenant Governor, Mr. Owen is the chair of Washington State Mentors and chair of the Legislative Committee on Economic Development and International Relations. He was the founder and 22-year president of Strategies for Youth, a nonprofit organization that partnered with his office to develop and deliver positive messages in schools and to the community at large. He has conducted many foreign trade and goodwill missions to countries in Asia, Europe, and South America. Among his numerous honors is the bestowed of a Spanish Order of Knighthood by the King of Spain in 2007, which he received in formal ceremony in 2008. He has honorary degrees from Walla Walla University and the Columbia Basin College. Lieutenant Governor Owen is a former owner of a small business. He is an avid outdoorsman. He and his wife Linda live in Shelton. They have 6 children, 20 grandchildren, and 2 great-grandchildren. At this time, let's give Lieutenant Governor Brad Owen a big welcome.
Buenas tardes. Es un honor para mí estar aquí hoy para la iniciación oficial del Latino Leadership Network. Sé que hay muchas personas que han trabajado muy duro para llegar a este punto y te felicito por sus esfuerzos. Yo hablo un poquito de español, mi español es muy malo, entonces no voy a hablar en español, voy a hablar en inglés. I think I got the last part right. Anyway, I've tried for years to learn the language, and so please don't come up to me afterwards and start talking in Spanish unless you do it very slowly or write it down so I can read it. Okay? I don't know what it is. It must be you can't teach an old dog new tricks or something like that. Anyway, I just got to make a correction, 2 little tiny corrections. I'm in my 40th year of public service, and I have, as of last Monday, because of my daughter's 4th adopted child, 21 grandchildren and 2 great-grandchildren. And that's 23. Counting. And I will be coming to some of you and asking if you would be willing to give me a loan at Christmas time. Anyway, so like I said, I don't consider myself fluent in Spanish by any means. I began learning the language many years ago, and I like to practice it whenever I can. And I thought learning Spanish would be most helpful in my career as a politician, and because there were so many Hispanic speakers, of course, in the state of Washington, and it has helped. And I've traveled to Mexico and Peru and Spain many times, and have had the occasion to speak Spanish before different Latino groups in our state. A few years ago, I actually gave a lecture in Spanish at 2 universities in Spain, but that's a story for another day. And let me say this and make myself perfectly clear. I read it. I read the lecture and gave it, but it was a lot of fun. And it was called Guns and God in American Politics: The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And it was a lot of fun to share the differences between our political system, our constitution, our religious policies and stuff with those of Spain. So it's great to see such a large and enthusiastic crowd. A sign that perhaps the formation of a Hispanic networking group is long overdue. The formation of the Latino Leadership Network is the 3rd official employee resource group, by the way, in Washington state government today. The other 2 being the Interagency Committee on State Employed Women and the Veterans Employee Resource Group. Washington state government has some great growth opportunities in this area and has an advisory group of diversity professionals to help lead the way. Of course, it is often a matter of employee initiatives, such as the initiative taken by the organizers of the Latino Leadership Network, which really gets the ball going. And as you may know, Washington state government as a whole is one of the state's largest employers, along with the federal government. Other large employers in Washington state have advanced diversity networks in place. Boeing, for instance, has 8 business resource groups, which are both internally and externally focused on customer partnerships, and 40 diversity councils. Microsoft has 7 employee resource groups and identifies 42 separate employee networks. I have personally spoken at events organized by one of these groups, the Microsoft Chinese Employee Network, which is very large due to the number of Asian employees who work there. Quite a very interesting group. And these types of workplace initiatives are important. They're not only serving as mentors and advisors for their fellow employees, but also serving as the voice for those they represent. I want to add one other thing. You know, when we go to the Chinese side for Microsoft, they get their employees together. They find out who's got talents. They do talents programs. They're quite creative. They don't just make it know who we are. It's know a little bit about what we are and what we do, and respect our diversity and our culture, and be able to share those with everybody else, and it's quite fascinating. With growing populations across all demographics, inclusiveness and diversity in government is especially critical. I would cite numbers about the growing population. I could cite numbers about the growing population of Latinos in Washington, which has been done, which is the largest ethnicity in our state behind Caucasians at around 17%, yet people of Hispanic Latino descent comprise just 5.5% of the workforce in Washington State government. In an ideal world, the numbers would more closely align. The faces of people who work in public service should reflect the faces of the public that they serve. For 22 years, my wife Linda and I ran a program called Strategies for Youth, and we did an hour-long assembly at elementary, middle schools, and even high schools across the state. We engaged the kids with music and interactivity. Early on, our main message was about staying away from drugs and alcohol, which today is still a very important message. But over time, at the encouragement of some educator friends, we changed the program to reflect diversity and mutual respect as a way to prevent bullying. I used lots of examples of sports figures, entertainers, political figures, and others that had achieved greatness in life while having to overcome adversity due to their size, their nationality, their disabilities, or the color of their skin. Our point was to celebrate people of all nationalities and capabilities and the contribution they have made or continue to make to the quality of American life. And basically the bottom line was it doesn't matter what your ethnicity, what your color, what your race, what your color of your hair is, how you dress, it's more the quality of the person themselves. That's important, and that we need to respect people of all that contribute in all ways to our great society, greatly different than most parts of the world in our respect for diversity. For instance, one of the fun things that I did is I opened every show by playing and singing La Bamba, okay? I talked about Richie Valenzuela, by the way, the Mexican sensation who adapted La Bamba from a Mexican folk song into a rock and roll hit that even today remains on the Rolling Stones list of 500 greatest songs of all time. Now, the interesting thing is there's certain songs that when they start out, before a word is said, everybody knows what it is. And La Bamba is certainly one of those. It's one of the most fun songs that I do. Oh, by the way, I'm a rock and roll freak, by the way. And actually, I would have got into that, but I ain't got no college education, and I'm a lousy musician, so there was only one thing left, and that was politics. But I really wanted to be a rock and roll musician. Now, one of the first interactive tasks in my program was to ask everyone in the room to identify their nationality, then relay that to my pre-selected panel of students who went around the gymnasium to gather information from everyone while the music was playing. The music was just a timer, that's all it was, and they went out. And then when they came back, we would discuss it. We would point out the incredible diversity that was in the schools, no matter how white it looked or how Hispanic it looked or whatever. In true fact, there was incredible diversity in all of our schools. I don't know if you know that, we actually have over 200 languages and dialects spoken in our schools in the state of Washington. Later in the show, I used an example as an example of Selena Gomez, a native Texan who rose to stardom after being cast on a Disney Channel hit series before releasing several albums of her own. The theme of my program was Everybody's Different, I'm Glad I'm Me. And we felt that this theme spoke to both the diversity and the potential of all of the kids in the room, and they should be proud of their heritage. And the final was when everyone in the room sang Lee Greenwood's Proud to be an American, with everyone in the room standing, cheering, singing, feeling good about themselves. And that's what we wanted to instill in them, pride. And they should have felt good, and they should have felt proud. We should all feel good about ourselves, especially as we band together and we learn how we can work together in this complicated world to make a difference and to be represented. No one should have to contend with the torments of others who make judgments that are unfair or ill-conceived or based on racial prejudice, especially in our workforce. We have many Latinos in Washington state government already who are distinguishing themselves through their great work and experience. And let me give you some examples. Of course, I was honored to be invited by my friend today, thank you, Alfie Alvarado Ramos, Director of the Department of Veteran Affairs, and does a great job. Native of Puerto Rico. He served 20 years in the active duty in the Army, rising through the ranks and retiring in 1993 as Command Sergeant Major of the Madigan Army Medical Center and Troop Command. And I got to say, the time that you went through that had to be a very challenging time for a woman in the military. But very, very proud of Alfie and what she's accomplished. She is highly respected in her current roles, also active in the Association of Washington Generals, a service group affiliated with my office by statute. Our co-speaker today, Uriel Iñiguez, an immigrant from Mexico, has risen through the ranks of state government before his appointment to the Commission on Hispanic Affairs by Governor Gregoire in 2005. Another friend, Ana Maria Cauce, the Cuban-born interim president of the University of Washington, is receiving high marks in her administration, especially for promoting diversity. An article just last week in the Seattle Times stated that many are now saying the hiring committee should look no further than her to fill the position on a permanent basis, and I personally happen to agree with that. And isn't it funny how we always go across the country to find someone to serve in ours, and then they come over here to get someone to serve over there, or to be president over there, and just stay home and let us get our people. Jesus Sanchez, Director of the Governor's Office of Regulatory Innovation and Assistance, has acquired an impressive portfolio of positions in city, county, state government before stepping into his current role 2 years ago. And Jesus was one of our presenters at a legislative committee meeting we had over in Eastern Washington last year and did a great job. Rick Garza, another friend whom I have known for many years, dating to the days when he served on staff for the state Senate and House, directs the Washington State Liquor and Cannabis Board. Rick is a native of Grandview. Many other Latinos are serving as deputy directors and other leadership positions in Washington state government. The name's Evelyn Perez, the Assistant Secretary for Developmental Disabilities at DSHS, and Harvey Perez, they're not related, Superintendent of the Rainier School in Buckley, come to mind. It just keeps going on. Of course, one of our newest state Supreme Court appointees is Justice Stephen C. Gonzalez, and very bright individual. Justice Gonzalez not only speaks Spanish, but he's also fluent in Japanese and even knows a little Mandarin, as he studied extensively in Asia. And the most recent appointment, Justice Mary Yu, is also of Hispanic descent, her mother having come from Mexico. So it goes on and on. Even though, we got all these great representatives and executive positions in our government, even though the percentage of Latinos is relatively underrepresented in state government. And unfortunately, the Latino community is currently, could be argued, underrepresented in the legislature, with just 3 of Hispanic heritage. Representative Luis Moscoso, a Democrat from the Montlake Terrace area, is of Peruvian descent. Representative Lillian Ortiz Self, a Democrat who represents part of Snohomish County, is a former member of the Commission on Hispanic Affairs and has been involved for years in the Latino community. And Representative Brady Walkinshaw, a Democrat who represents part of Seattle, is of Cuban descent on his mother's side. So according to the National Hispanic Caucus of State Legislators, there are 120 legislators of Hispanic descent within the 11 western states of the United States of America. Most of these represent legislative districts in New Mexico, California, and Arizona. And given the proportionality, large Latino population in Washington, for our state to have so few representatives of Hispanic descent is a problem, and you should think about that. And we need to recruit more people to run to be represented. Now, saying that, it's equally important that people who are not of Hispanic descent understand and are sensitive to your issues. So if you're not going to have the Hispanic population, at least make sure that the information, the knowledge, the education of the people that are there, it happens so that they can represent your issues fairly. We have an active Latino political force in Olympia, even at that, because of the people that are there. But every year we have Latino Legislative Day in the state capitol, attended by hundreds. In fact, I've spoken before their rally several times, and that is a good time to come in and influence officials. And of course, one of the fun things is we're delighted to have Wenatchee High School mariachi group play for us in the Capitol. And this year they came into my office and played in my office, which was a phenomenal experience there. And they are so amazing. And I don't know if you know, one of the reasons that group was started was by a music teacher who wanted to encourage young people, Latinos, to stay in school. And so he created that. I said to him one day, these violin players were just playing like crazy. I said, my God, I said, they must have been playing since they were this big. They're so good. And he says, 2 years. They've only been playing for 2 years. They were just absolutely phenomenal. A promise of this new Latino Leadership Network, one of the things that excited me about it most as a long-term public servant, is the potential for those who are more experienced to mentor those who are new to state government. One of the jobs I have taken on as Lieutenant Governor is to serve as chair of Mentoring Works Washington, Washington State Mentors, but Mentoring Works Washington is a public-private partnership that provides services to organizations across the state that mentor young people. They have partnerships with the Juvenile Rehabilitation Administration, at DSHS, the Boys and Girls Club, Big Brothers Big Sisters, chapters across the state, 4-H, and more. It's like 200 across the state that we work with. The primary goal of Mentoring Works Washington is to close what's known as the mentoring gap. That is the number of adult mentors available to work with the mentees or youth that could use a mentor. And right now, that gap is about 7 to 1. That's about 7 to 1. We need more mentors. There's a huge need for them out there, and I would encourage all of you, if you've not done it before, to consider mentoring a young person. And we do need Latino, we need mentors of color to help these kids. You know, and a lot of times it's just having someone they can talk to. Sometimes it's having someone that'll help them with their schoolwork. Sometimes, but a lot of times it's just having someone that they know is there that cares. Because what we know and what we call resiliency is one of the key elements to a young person being able to deal with the difficult issues that they face is care and support of at least one person. And that doesn't mean that person has to be there every day. That means that person needs to be there on occasion so that the young person knows they have someone that cares about them and will give them support for what they need to accomplish. We need to encourage our young people, especially in our high-risk communities, to finish school and to get on track where they can lead productive and meaningful lives as you are, and potentially in public service. There's no greater service than public service. I'd like to tell you about a Latino woman who is already making a difference in her job and for the Latino community, and will certainly benefit from this network. Beatriz Mendez, 37-year-old resident of Lewis County, is married mother of 2 boys, ages 6 and 8. She began working for the Division of Behavior Health and Recovery within the Department of Social and Health Services about 1.5 years ago. And prior to that, Beatriz spent 9 years as an employee of Lewis County, starting in customer service work before moving into a position with the county's health department. It was there she started doing prevention work, specifically helping the county with its efforts to steer youth away from drugs and alcohol. She developed both a passion and a reputation for that work and began joining state and federal initiatives in substance abuse prevention before moving into her current job as coordinator for the Washington Healthy Youth Coalition. And Beatriz states, there are so many things that can't be prevented at the very beginning if we just focus on kids and being a parent. One of the big reasons why I'm in it because I want to be able to practice what I preach by creating bonds, by being a mentor. The native of the Wenatchee area grew up in a big family herself with 5 sisters and brothers. Her dad was the family disciplinarian, making sure his offspring stayed clear of the kinds of influences that can get kids in trouble. Beatriz made the move to Lewis County as her husband, also Hispanic, is a native of Rochester. They are raising their children in a bilingual environment, insisting that they speak Spanish only at the dinner table. Maybe that's how I can learn my Spanish. Maybe. Now, through her position with the state, Beatriz was recently recruited to be a spokesperson for public service announcements and newscasts for the state's marijuana prevention efforts on Univision and other Spanish language media. She is also helping with critical translation work for educational materials the state is producing for parents on the prevention of marijuana use by minors, which I can guarantee you is going to be more critical as time moves on than ever before. While she has her associate's degree from Centralia College, Beatrice would like to someday get her bachelor's degree to help her with her further work in prevention. She says she is excited about the formation of the Latino Leadership Network, telling us that it has great potential for people in the Latino community to share their knowledge across state agency lines and establish professional networks that are mutually beneficial. And I agree with Beatrice. And what you have here is the beginning of something very special. What we need is for this network to grow and to become a great and powerful asset to the state's workforce, to be educators for the state's workforce, to help people in the state's workforce understand those issues that are special, that are specific to the Latino community. In doing so, it needs to serve as an example for other potential employee resource groups and employee networks. Perhaps they can see what you are doing and follow your path to success. It has been said that a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. So congratulations for taking these first steps through the formation of the Latino Leadership Network. Dr. Ingrid Lorenzana, a prominent optometrist and speaker from Illinois who had to overcome vision problems of her own before entering her field, said, "Activate the abilities you already have and achieve your mission." That is some good advice and words to inspire the Latino Leadership Network. You all have strong abilities, and now together you have a new mission to achieve. So thank you for all of your service, for all that you do for the state of Washington, and just for being here to make a difference for yourselves and for other state employees and for the families of Latino children. Mis mejores deseos para todos ustedes para un futuro gratificante en el servicio público. Muchas gracias.
Thank you again, Lieutenant Governor Brad Owen. Right now, I'd like to bring up my co-chair, Denise Mino, and she will be doing the icebreaker and the networking piece.
That was just very inspiring. Thank you, Honorable Lieutenant Governor Brad Owen. Can we give another round of applause? Thank you. I want to recognize Brian Dirks, his staff person who's here with us today. Thank you. And Beatrice Mendez, you are here too. Could you please stand up and be recognized? Yes, levántate. Thank you. I appreciate hearing your story. All right, so we do an icebreaker, and we do it after lunch because I don't want to interrupt you while you're eating, right? If you're like me, you just like want to eat. Don't make me stand up. So if you are from the greater Olympia area, please stand up. This is just an icebreaker. Greater Olympia area. All right, good job. Thanks for coming. All right, if you are from outside the greater Olympia area, go ahead and sit down. Those who've traveled a long way came from outside the greater Olympia area. All right, so what kind of places did you come from? Vancouver? Vancouver, where else do we have? Bellevue? Seattle, awesome. Redmond, Snoqualmie. Moses Lake, woohoo, Moses Lake. Lakewood, awesome. Shelton, thank you. Way to represent Mason County. All right, awesome. Let's give a round of applause. Thank you for all right. All right, so stand up if you invited another person to attend the meeting and they came. All right, let's give a round of applause. So this is how we grow the network, right? We invite people to come and share in this wonderful experience. All right, stand up if you invited your boss and your boss came. Phil Gonzalez, all right. Where's your boss, Phil? What's your name? Georgina, thank you for coming and joining us. All right, that's awesome. All right, and stand up if your boss has no idea where you are right now. We're just kidding. Yeah. Emilia Bella, sit back down. All right, so now we're going to get into our networking activity, and I want to share a little what I learned about networking in the last few years, because before I was engaged, I would sit at my desk with my head down. I would do what I was instructed to do. I would just do what I was told, right? I just did that much. And I was encouraged to participate and be engaged in more activities at work. And I expanded my horizons, and I started looking around. You know, why aren't we meeting? Why can't we have lunch together? Why can't we network? You know, I know someone who would be good to connect with so-and-so so they can help them, you know, go back to school, or connect with someone so they can get a promotion in the area that they wanted to. So, 3 key things I want to mention about the power of the network. One, as capable as we are, we can't do it all ourselves. So I think when I was about 20, I thought I could do it all myself. But over the years, I've learned that's not true. We can't be all things to all people, so why not have a network of folks around us that we can draw upon? If we want to improve, we will surround ourselves with people that are better than us. When I started attending the group, and I saw the likes of Alfie, Justice Gonzalez, I thought, oh my gosh, here I am sitting at the table, and I would always kind of think less of myself because I only had my AA degree and I had never finished college. But you know what? It was okay. That inspired me to go back to school. So I'm in my 3rd term, finishing my degree by next July. All right. And it's not what you know necessarily, it's sometimes who you know. So we have an example within the network that someone knew of a job opening, shared that job opening, and really encouraged that person to apply. Even though they met the qualifications, they said, but I've never been a supervisor. I don't know if I can do that. Do you think? One quick pep talk, they applied, they were in the final interview, and they got hired. So that's the power of the network. One other example I want to share with you, I met a young woman at a training for WIC staff. It's Women, Infant, and Children. The WIC program helps lower-income women and children with food and education. This gal, she was just giving great answers throughout the week-long training that we were in. And I went up to her afterwards and I said, I've been so inspired by your comments. Can I introduce myself? My name's Denise. I work here at the Department of Health. I'm in IT, which has nothing to do other than I'm a WIC software tester, so that's why I'm here. And she said, my name's Maribel, and I'm a receptionist. I said, you're a receptionist? Yeah. I said, you were giving such great answers about how you help the WIC moms and you address the needs of the children. And she said, it's because I care a lot about my job. And in talking with her, I just felt prompted to ask, what are your educational goals? Like, oh, I just met you, but I'm sorry I'm going to ask this. And she shared with me that she wanted to go back to college. She thought about it. And she shared that when she was in high school, her senior year, her mother got cancer. And the doctor gave her mother 2 months to live unless she got this procedure that they couldn't afford. She said, I dropped out of school. I took the training that takes 2 months. I took it in 2 weeks and became certified. And I kept my mom alive for 2 years. She said, I went back and I got my GED, but I don't know about college. I don't know how I would pay for it. I don't know where to start. And I said, where are you located? She said, Vancouver. I said, at the last Latino lunch that I went to, Rosalba Pitkin gave me her business card. She's at Clark College. So let me give her a call. Let me see what she can do to help you with that. I got back to my desk and I called Rosalba. Luckily she was there. She answered the phone. And she's the diversity officer for the school. And I explained the situation. I said, she just needs somebody to help her navigate this. And she said, no problem. I will call her right now. I'll make an appointment. And Maribel texted me in 10 minutes and she said, I have an appointment next week. Thank you very much for connecting me. That is the power of the network. So I want to invite Adolfo Capistani, who is the Communications Director for DSHS, to share a little more about the power of the network.
Thank you, Denise. Before I do, as she mentioned, I'm the Senior Director of Communications for the Department of Social Health Services, and I am very privileged to lead a great group of very talented folks. And if you look at our logo here, which was created by one of my folks who we have here today, and I wanted to recognize him because he came through. You might have seen the signs that we had outside there and our new letterhead, and that's Matt Rule, who is one of the most talented people. It takes a lot to get an organization like this off the ground, and really it's the Denises and the Phillips and Alfies who have helped make this happen. What I just wanted to briefly share, and Lieutenant Governor kind of touched upon is, and that's on the mentoring piece of it. Because for me, the network, that's what sticks out when I think about how you network. I think back to when I started my career in state government in 1981, and I remember the leaders, the Latino leaders back then, and how they mentored me when I was this right out of graduate school, could conquer the world, and they taught me humility, and they also taught me how to connect with each other. And throughout the years, a lot of the success in my career has been because of the mentorship I received way back when I was 21, 22 years old. So if you look at your agenda that's there, and you read that, leaders of today preparing leaders of tomorrow. That's what I'm going to use as my driving force with this organization. There's a lot of young people coming up, a lot of Latinos, los jóvenes, okay? And we need to bring those people out. We need to get them to forums like this, the millennials, who spend their whole life on this thing, which I just figured out how to turn off my ringer, but that's what they live, and we've got to bring those people, because those are the leaders of tomorrow. I mean, I'm in twilight of my career, well past it, and so I want to make sure that I sort of do this pay it forward with some of these young folks coming through. And I think the Latino Leadership Network, I think that should be one of our focuses. So I was glad to hear about the mentoring piece, and I look forward to being a part of it and help out any way I can, and we'll continue to help create our branding and image, because that's what this is too. It's a beautiful logo. It encompasses the whole state. You saw what Uriel showed us, all the different numbers, right? We're in every county, and that's why we came up with this. And so again, I want to thank Matt for giving us our branding, which is now, it's like, this is a start, folks. Let's keep it going. So
The piece about
oh yes, we another part of the example was we talked about the marijuana stuff, right? Well, there was a grant last year that Department of Health had to use on marijuana prevention and education. And because of networking and people at Health and people at our place at DSHS, et cetera, long story short, we were able to use this federal grant money to produce this advertising, basically public service advertising campaign, which was focused at the Hispanic community. And we had people come forth. I actually did some audio cuts for radio that were in Spanish. Somebody else did some. And that would not have happened had we not had networking connections. And as a result, we were able to take advantage of some federal funds that were going away and use it specifically to educate our young Latinos and parents that while marijuana might be legal, there are still issues, and it doesn't mean that kids can have it. So that's the example you wanted me to share, I think. So anyway, again, I appreciate it. I don't want to take up any more of your time, but I'm looking forward to many more lunches like